morning. We here at PN Global News, August the 23rd.
Top of the morning.
Top of the morning. Good morning, my brother Jesse. How you doing?
Mr. Woods, I am exceptionally well.
Exceptionally well.
There's something about a robust cup of Folgers that just gets you right. And
Here
that
you
is
go.
not a shameless plug.
Right. Here you go. Here you go. But, oh, man, good morning, Marty and Mark. You know,
morning,
Mark, how
morning.
Marty, Ezelle. Man, good morning, you guys, man.
Welcome.
Yep.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Morning.
Glad to have you guys here with us on this wonderful 23rd of August. So happy to have you here, man.
Hey, glad to be here.
Yeah,
today.
yeah. So, man,
My
what's been
pleasure.
going on with you, Marty? How you been?
Been doing well.
Yeah?
Yeah. A little go back from vacation, a little traveling, but back to business. So.
Traveling now.
Now, he made that sound like he was going, just maybe a couple of states over. No.
Just tell the truth, the inconvenient truth.
I would venture to say that this man went across the pond.
I did a couple of weeks in Europe, Italy and France. So it was
Good for you.
Man, that's what I'm saying. I want to be like Marty when I grow up.
Right, selfies in front of the
Right.
Leaning Tower of Pisa, right?
What's who's talking over here?
Across the pond. Mark, how you been, man?
Man, been good.
Yeah, Dallas native.
Dallas native, been here since '99, back in the hometown since '99, and glad to be here.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome, man.
yeah.
Well, we here today at PN Global News, August 23rd, picking up our series with talking about the inconvenient truth of financial institutions, of minority businesses, women-owned businesses, government businesses, LGBTQ. It's a lot of inconvenient truth, right? Jess?
Just small to middle market enterprise in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's really telling, Rodney, is that we have been very, very deliberate
Yeah,
in making sure that we connect the dots about
Yep.
not just the inconvenient truth, but the inconvenient answers.
yeah,
Okay. The truth is that we've had some enterprises that are very good at what they do.
yep,
They have market share, they've made revenue, but they've come to a unique inflection point in
Yeah.
their existence. And now they've got to go outside of that convenient audience, that known audience, mom, dad,
Yeah.
uncle, colleague, high school friend,
right.
even the ones that just come back to town since 1999.
Right.
99.
That have all
I
the
think you're
trap-
picking on you, Mark.
Right.
have all the trappings of success.
Right.
But again, understanding who they are,
Yeah,
understanding what they now need, and being prepared to engage that audience to ask for the solution.
yeah.
Capital.
Capital. That's why we got Marty and Mark here to talk
That's why
about
we
this
have
whole
it.
capital.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about yourself too, Marty, and the background you come from.
So I am first of all originally from Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm a Buckeye.
Yeah, he would have to go.
Okay,
He
so
would have to
so
go
that's a
there.
plug for
I'm a
Cleveland.
Buckeye.
Cleveland, okay.
We're
Ron's gone. Okay.
We're going to wait till the next segment to talk
Yeah,
about
right,
Cleveland. Okay, but what?
But I have been in Texas for 20 years now. So
Good.
Texas is my home.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm a financial advisor with Eagle Strategies. I've been in the finance industry for close to 20 years now.
Wow.
So I've been focusing on working with small businesses and helping them pave the way to success. So,
Impressive.
yeah.
Impressive.
Mark, and yourself, sir?
So similar, native of Dallas, not Cleveland, so I'm not gonna distance myself a little bit there. Been a financial services professional for 5 years, but working in the small business space, doing consulting and helping individuals start businesses and expand through franchising quite a bit. Did that for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
You combine that 15 or so years in the
Yeah.
small business space.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Awesome.
We got a lot of businessmen that try to transition to the franchise space. So we know it's a lot of people that
Yeah.
need to talk to Mark as well. He's a
Yeah.
subject matter expert in that space. So these are the guys you need to talk to,
These
right?
are the guys. But Rodney, this is an excellent lead up
No, it is. absolutely.
to where we're going throughout this series, and that is understanding, or at least having become exposed to specific topics
Mhm.
that you kind of knew were out there that may have been issues in your business.
Yeah.
Earnings, EBITDA, free cash flow.
Yes, sir.
But then on the balance side of the ledger, if you will, debt,
Yeah.
Sure.
equity,
Right,
corresponding
right.
ratios, little things that investors might consider when looking through the lens of risk. Retained earnings. Are you leaving anything in the kitty? So this is a great lead-in to how we're going to matriculate through this series, because with your experiences as it relates to helping small business create an identity, build out an execution plan, and then, depending on how they grow, it may be advantageous to franchise. that is going to be part and parcel to really adding a bit more meat, if you will, to the various considerations that a CEO, COO, and even a senior level VP need to consider, I would assume.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean you're needing to address to all of those markets. You're needing to address to all the different types of consumers, and like you said, you have to create that identity that's going to resonate with your hopeful, growing client base. And so often, wannabe entrepreneurs step ahead of those planning phases of, how do I get the debt and the equity piece married up?
Yeah.
And how do I, have that execution plan so that I'm getting customers to get that revenue back in to pay off that debt?
Oh yeah, we talk about this every day,
right?
All day, every second. That's all we talk about.
Yeah. And so it's it's a methodical process that you have to go through, and you can't skip ahead.
Right.
It always comes back to bite you.
Don't shortcut the shortcut.
Right. You can't do it.
I think that's one of the financial, statements. Don't shortcut the shortcut. I've been hearing that so much since I've been with Jesse. He'll tell everybody, don't shortcut the shortcut.
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm talking about, right?
That's a good one. I might steal that one.
Jesse got some sense now.
Right.
Get your notepads out. Get ready for J-Mac.
Right.
But I do appreciate you offering a bit more color there, because one of the things that Rodney and I find when we travel the country, it's almost to a man or a woman that they'll say, just give me the 2 or 3 things that I really need as a nugget.
Yeah.
Where I can go into the bank or the family office or another investor base. Give me those 2 or 3 things. And we almost always respond to, well, if it were that simple, we all would have done it.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because
We've
risk has more than 2 or 3 letters, so the consideration is going to be more than 2 or 3 things.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, but I wanted to segue to, I know a point that you wanted to make, because you and I have talked, I wouldn't say to ad nauseam, but we've talked a lot about viewing small enterprise through a risk lens, but then how to couch that in terms of its intrinsic value, because there's got to be a growth conversation there as well.
Right, absolutely, and it kind of relates to one of the things that Mark mentioned, which is planning. That's one of the key parts that one of the steps you can't skip. Shortcuts. So,
right.
But through the planning process, it's important to understand, based on your growth trajectory, what the value of your business is, the intrinsic value. So you can, when you go to market, you're speaking to somebody in the right terms. Like, what a lot of people are, so these business owners, smaller business owners are good at running their business, operating. They know where they stand today in terms of revenues, or maybe for the year. But it's important to have that 5-year look, that 10-year, like what's the trajectory, what's your growth plan, what's that scenario, and then how do you speak to potential investors about that? So.
Yeah, because when you guys invest money into small, medium-sized businesses, you want to understand, okay, how are you really going to grow this business?
Right.
And how are you going to return my dollars, right?
Exactly.
Because you have a fiduciary responsibility of your investor pools who put money in the funds and stuff like that. But a lot of times there's a misunderstanding that when you get this money is for 2 things, right? You got to buy the human capital people to help you scale and grow this business, or you got to buy the right equipment to help you continue to grow the business.
Right.
But you got to have an operator, so it goes back to you still got to have human capital.
Skill workforce.
Right, still got to have it.
Exactly.
So, a lot of challenges with the small to medium businesses is not understanding what that looks like. So I walk into your business, Marty, you or Mark, and I'm trying to get $5 million to scale and grow my business. You're going to ask me a series of questions. And some of those questions are, listen, what are you going to ask me for?
Well, first of all, what is my return on the investment? Right. When and am I going to see the return? Right. At what rate? Right.
All these
so
things
that's number one. What is the return on equity? So that's the number one question.
Right. So, Mark?
Well, and it's to look at that plan. It's to look at the 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 month, maybe 3 to 5 year plan as to what are you putting in place today to help support the growth that we need to get so that you can get that ROI.
Right.
It's not just about today. And so often entrepreneurs are looking at today, trying to make sure that they're covering payroll and all that, but you got to look beyond. And as the owner, you have to elevate yourself to that business owner mindset, not that employee mindset. Yeah. And so that's where you're looking ahead to the ROI and the plans to help you to get there.
Right.
it just sounds like that we're getting back to what we love to call the pro forma.
There we-
There's something about that pro forma,
There you
man.
have it.
You
Right,
know,
man.
because we're trying to realize certain outcomes.
Outcome.
Right, absolutely.
Well, you know, one of the things that, because I know we're going to go to a break here in a few moments, but one of the things let's make sure that we capture as we talk about the pro forma and all the data points that sort of framework represents, let's make sure that we come back and emphasize the importance of not playing with the inputs
To get the
to
outcome.
get the outcome that we want.
Playing with the inputs to get the output.
You can have that one too.
Yeah, it's, bad in, bad out.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
You know,
exactly.
and good in, you hopefully get the
Good
good
out,
out. you know?
exactly,
And so,
exactly.
numbers don't lie. And that's one of the things that when you go in front of a bank and investors, angel investors, whatever it might be, they're going to want to scrub those numbers upside, downside, left, right,
Yeah.
and they don't lie. So if you do fudge those numbers, it'll come out. And so you just have to be honest with your team and with the people that you have to support you, and maybe look for another way.
Yeah.
You have to be realistic. You have to be realistic, number one, and then there's going to be within whatever industry you're in, certain benchmarks within that industry that you can compare to, that you need to compare to. So that's how that's where the reason factor comes in. But
Yeah. But even as a small business, I mean, we sometimes, like you said, Mark, and you too, Marty, like we might fudge the number a little bit, but as a person who knows that business, I should know what it's going to cost me to hire you, Marty, hire you, Mark, hire you, Jesse. And when I give you those numbers and stuff and you see it, you're like, nah, that's not right. Well, I'm only going by what I know because this is what I know and I know how much you guys cost. And I'm putting this in my performance because I'm trying to secure and deploy the human capital to me, which is you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But, and I think we get caught up sometimes because of not just you guys, picking on you guys like that, but as investors, they're like, well, no, you don't need this, this, and this. But I'm telling you, in my business, I need y'all three to help me grow from here to here.
And that is a great point. We're going to come right back and make sure that we dig deeper into the here, and here.
Here.
Right here on Penn Global
Here,
News.
here.
Rodney Woods, Jesse McRae, the incomparable Mark and Marty. It's just going to be good. Be right back.
Marie, you have pre-diabetes.
Diabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Hey, man.
Oh, you're a busy
We're running out.
This is great news. Busy moms never get pre-diabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for pre-diabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
All right, welcome back. It must be a little warm in here, Mr.
Well,
Woods.
hey, I'm sorry for all you listeners and viewing audience. See me rub this nice bald head, but T-Mac, one day you'll be here too, brother. So don't play. And for all you others who gonna lose your hair, we got a solution for that too.
Right.
There's a celebrity that has a radio spot out. We're not going to advertise it.
Yeah.
But he comes from LBC, part of the Dog Pound. I think it's called For Him.
Right.
Anyway, welcome back to Penn Global News.
Welcome back.
Jesse McRae, Rodney Woods, the incomparable Rodney Woods, and two very, very good guests. We've been leading up to this for a minute. I feel like that we were one step short of rolling out the red carpet for these guys.
I really, it's my fault. I really wanted to have a red carpet for you guys today, and that's all my fault. I will have it next time.
Next time.
I'll
We'll
show you.
expect
Because you're legends.
we'll
Marty
be
and
looking for it.
Mark.
We're going to hold you to that. We're going to hold you to that.
I will have it.
But great to have you all join us, Mark Howard and the incomparable Marty Ezelle.
Yes,
And,
sir.
this is good.
Glad
I
to
mean,
be
this whole broadcast and this segment is part and parcel to the bigger message of the considerations that all businesses should have, but small to middle market enterprise most certainly need to consider as it relates to the subject of revenue, earnings, debt, equity, because all of those things give the investor a view of a snapshot in time of the financial standing and historical performance up to that point. So, got a company been in business for a while, at a unique inflection point, 8, 10 million in revenue, They've maintained their cost to run that business. It's throwing off, let's just say 10, 12% in free cash flow. Not bad by any means, but they need to grow. There's a chance to make an organic acquisition, buy market share. And so one of the things that Rodney and I always see is that man or woman or that son that will come up and say, hey, I want to just focus on the revenue. I want to just go and buy this company because I know that it'll add 2, 3x to my top line revenue. But we know that there's going to be some inherent flaws in that approach because they're just looking at it from a top line perspective. And there's going to be an acquisition of costs associated with that, isn't it?
So when we do these type of
role
plays, what we do a lot on the show, and Jesse, we always break it down for the listening audience and the viewing public. When you say 2 and 3x, sometimes we try to break all that down because they don't really understand what that means sometimes. But to your question, to Marty or Mark, either one of you guys, we're trying to pull those answers out so that the listening and the viewing public can understand exactly where they are in the space.
Right.
So when you look at making an acquisition from a top line revenue perspective, what should they consider in terms of the multiple, which is how it looks like it's going to make a contribution, and how that will flow through the income statement as it relates to what's left after post acquisition, either from a EBITDA or pure profits perspective.
Yeah, so from a multiple, you're wanting, again, to, I think Marty mentioned, be realistic and look at the industry and what's a multiple for your type of business.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And so you're looking for multiples in your space. And so quite often entrepreneurs will look at, well, Fred down the street had a multiple X and it's in a totally different business. So you have to look at what's the multiple for your industry first. And then you have to look, because you mentioned that they've been in business a while, they're at an inflection point, and so you have to look at what is it specifically that they're needing to do in addition to the revenue. Because with the revenue is going to need to come that infrastructure growth. And so is that going to be revenue that you then need to have some debt to help fund additional capital, additional human capital, and you got to look at the whole picture. And I think you're mentioning that you have someone who's only focused on one thing.
Exactly.
And you forget the rest of that.
The implications.
It'll come back, and you got to have that structure. You got to have that structure.
And then in terms of how that translates to the bottom line, as you were saying, how it flows through, you have to have a really good understanding of the target's margins, how they're operating, your own margins, what that looks like as a combined entity, and then overhead. There are some opportunities for reduction, some synergies there. So what's your new overhead structure look like, your margin going forward, and that's how you determine what that flow and what that payback is going to look like. So.
Very good. I know you had.
No. I'm good. I mean, this is what needs to be explained because there's always, so many businesses trying to understand how does that work. Right. And we do forget sometimes. We look at, the revenue and forget all the other pieces, Mark, and that's so true.
Well, it's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
One piece affects another, affects another.
Great point.
Right.
And you have to look at both sides, revenue and expense.
Right.
Income and, on the expense side. So, but it's fun to think of revenue and growth.
Absolutely fun. I want to think we're going to be a
ignore,
billion-dollar operation, right?
Yeah. Ignore that other side.
Yeah.
And you can't. You have to look at both because it's revenue minus expenses is what you're caring about. Right. And so you got to balance both sides.
Yeah. So, leaving the earlier segment, we talked about this wonderful little template. It's one of my favorites. It's called the pro forma. Because a pro forma simplistically should outline revenue sources, projected revenue model in terms of time. But then you got to get to cost of goods. Then you got to get to SG&A. Then you get to EBITDA and all those other wonderful things.
Right.
Speaking specifically about the cost aspect, when a CEO or a senior level VP is looking at how to help their business grow, the revenue, we know that's ambition. Cost of goods and SG&A, that's one of the inconvenient truths. So in looking at an acquisition in this example, what are some of the primary considerations that he or she should try and circle because they know that they're going to have to communicate that as an impediment or an offset of earnings? What are some of the things they should consider?
Well, when you look at the cost of goods, there's ways that those costs can go up and ways that they can go down. And
Very true.
so, you know, you look at some of the big box retailers, you know, one of their strategies is we want to be so big that we're buying at such a small price, a small cost that, you know, we can extract margins from there.
right,
Yes.
And so the little guys, you're not going to have that advantage. So maybe you need to look at partnering with, you know, a complementary company
We
to,
talk about
to
it
achieve
all the time.
those,
We do.
those
Yeah.
low
Part of
costs.
this, but yeah.
And so it's what are your costs,
Yeah.
and then what's contributing to that? Is it you're just a small player and you need to partner and leverage up? Is
Cost
it
synergies.
cost
Yep,
synergies?
yep.
Is it that you're just lazy and you haven't found, you know, a better source of goods? You know, and so there's you really do have to analyze that cost influx and see if there's ways to reduce it.
Right.
Tell you
And we do. We talk about that all the time, you know, about the partner. You know, sometimes it's in the form of strategic partners or it's joint ventures. And we know that joint ventures are a little bit more legal, a little bit more tough to get out of, you know, if the marriage doesn't work.
Right.
So we know that, but we encourage a lot of businesses in the same industry, in the same space, to partner so they can go after, you know, bigger contracts. And they can deploy more capital at that point. So but we're picking on Mark a little bit because Mark is only going to be with us for a little bit of time because I didn't bring the red carpet.
And he expressed those sensitivities very
Right.
great. He does.
So I didn't bring the red carpet to Mark. So we're trying to get all the information we can get out of Mark before he leaves us on the show today, and then we're going to pick on Marty a lot.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we don't want to leave nobody out.
Marty's got to carry the torch.
Right.
But no, I'm sorry.
No?
Yeah, because I was going to say, one of the things that we also talked about is being able to communicate the flow through, to use, you know, sort of that theme, the flow through to the less convenient side of this whole ledger, and that being the debt side, because equity is going to take care of itself. But if we may spend a moment on equity, and we think about the solicitation of capital and the implications of that infusion. We spoke a moment ago about enterprise value as it relates to the performance.
Right.
Let's touch a little bit on enterprise value mathematically as it relates to that cash infusion, because it does change. It impacts the cap table, right? Right. So what should a CEO or senior level VP consider when they're taking in that capital, the percentage of equity they might look to give up for that capital? What are some of the considerations they should have as it relates to not just the equity component, or even if it's debt, that infusion, how that can influence the valuation of that business, not from a performance standpoint, but just mathematically, because that is what you are on paper.
Yeah, and that can go either way. You know, for Mark, yourself, Marty, because both you guys are in that space. So however you choose to answer these questions, I don't think nobody's gonna hold y'all hostage for this because they need the answers, right?
You know what? We had a conversation at reception the other night. I'll frame it like this. Young lady says, "Hey, my company's got $1.2 million in it, and I'm looking to take on. I'm looking to get up 10% equity." Like, okay, well, ma'am, you're about to dramatically change the valuation of your company. Giving up 10% of the stock. Just thought you'd know. You just became an $11 million company overnight. So maybe speak to the implications of that and why that should or should not be a consideration when taking in that capital.
Yeah, and I guess I look at it as you take a step back. What is it that you're looking to gain from that capital inflow?
Great point.
Right?
Great
point. What was its intent to begin with?
So your thing, Marty, is what are you looking to take away from the capital that you're asking for?
Yeah, I guess I look at, sure, the 10% is going to change the valuation of the company, but
that's a mathematical consideration.
Right. But what is that 10% in the long run hoping to achieve?
Okay, gotcha.
And so, sure, it's going to dilute the value of your shares. It's going to dilute, you know, your ownership of the company. I mean, it's the whole Shark Tank. You know, I'm going to bring these guys in to help do something,
right?
So that I can give up something to get a
so
lot
bring
more.
That one up.
Yeah,
right.
But I mean, Mark and I are great friends, but we'll talk
But it's you're looking for that influx to give you something. So you're going to give up to hopefully get more.
Right. True.
And so with the giving up of the 10%, whatever it is, it's how are you going to take that loss to then turn it into more.
Yeah.
And you have to have that plan
Right.
for what are you going to use this capital for? Because even if it's a loan and you're having to pay the interest back, you know, if you get an investor, you're going to have to pay the investor the ROI back.
Yep.
And so it's just how are you going to make this a bigger gain so that the 1 + 1 = 3.
Right. And even as a small business, I mean, Marty, for you, because you work with a lot of small business as well, but even a small business, you look at certain things like, okay, I really do need this capital, but I ain't trying to give you 10%.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You hear that all the time. Well, Mr. Ezelle, why do I need to give up 10%? I'm just trying to get $1 million. Right?
Right. Well,
So what are the things that you have to really talk about at that point?
well, number one, you know, what's your alternative? You know,
Right.
do you have another place to go to get the capital if you don't have a
No.
choice?
No, I don't.
But that's the big one. But yeah,
Right.
like Mark was saying, you know, it's what you know what do you get? You're getting a lot more in return. You're
Right.
hoping for that 10%. You're getting not only a capital infusion, an equity infusion, but a certain level of expertise. So
Right.
you want to
Right.
find that investor that strategically fits with you, who can bring a certain number of, if you're in manufacturing industry, you want to work with somebody who works with manufacturing firms and can infuse talent into your firm, and so that's part of that 10%. If you're giving up 10% in exchange for intellectual property.
But listen
so
to Marty and Mark, I'm telling you.
So it's
because these are the things we got to do, and we, you know, and I'm speaking on behalf of the small business community.
Right, right.
We've been one too, and we were the same way. Like, I mean, I need, you know, 10 million.
Right.
I'm not trying to give you, you know, 35-40% of the company. So how
Right,
do I
right.
get around that? And like you say, you need the capital,
right.
right? You want to grow
If
this
you need
company. You want to scale this business. So what do you really want to do, right? So it comes back to that same question constantly.
I mean, why does this segment even have to end, man?
I
This
don't know.
has been awesome. This has been awesome to have you on. Appreciate your perspective. And we will make sure we have the red carpet next time, that's for sure. Okay. Hey, continued success to you. Don't be a stranger, okay? I know that you're going to hang around with us for a little
sure.
bit. PN Global News, Jesse McRae, Rodney Woods, the Mark Howard.
No, we're
Marty
not
Ezelle.
going away yet, Jesse.
We're not ready to go yet?
No, we're not ready to go.
Because I
yet.
got, there's a
Why
lovely
you
young
trying
woman.
to, I don't even understand why you're trying to kick Mark out right
Here's
now.
the thing. Here's what they're not seeing behind the camera.
Right.
A lovely face that's telling us it's about that time.
Nah, but we're not trying to get rid of Mark yet. We're trying to hold Mark as long as we can. We won't get him in trouble though, obviously.
Right.
So we got about 5 more Jets. We got to keep this going.
Hey,
with
no
Mark
problem.
and
No
Marty,
problem.
you
No
know?
problem. I just don't
We
want to
got
get that look.
Eminem in the house. Like, y'all kidding me?
Eminem, I like it.
So what we're gonna do before we let Mark go, we're gonna just go to a quick break. We're gonna come back, Mark, and finish up with you. So I know you got to get to some places. So we're gonna come back at PN Global News in a few moments.
In a few.
School's over. What's next? Imagine a place where friendly faces say hello. You grab a healthy snack, have fun, and play a little. Imagine a place where you get lost in a book. Get help with homework. Or learn in the computer lab, where you create something cool. Kids take the stage. And you get some exercise. Imagine a safe place where you hang out with friends. Your voice matters, and someone's always there to listen. A place where you like spending the afternoon. And you can't wait to tell someone all about it. The club is a fun, positive, and safe place to grow. A place to become anything you dream. Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Now, welcome back to PN Global News. Jesse McRae, Rodney Woods, Marty Ezelle, Mark Howard. Now, Mark, we were trying to segue you off the show.
You were.
You know what?
Yes,
I'm,
you was.
I'm gonna fall on the sword, but understand that my sword is sterling silver.
Uh-oh.
I will fall on the sword with style. And let me just say, I'm glad you're staying.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Man, we're glad you're here too, man. Cause Camelot over here is going to kick him off the show.
Camelot.
No, man, we're happy, Marty and Mark, that you guys stand around a little bit longer. But man, we got to continue this because we got to get
Absolutely.
this out to you, listening audience and viewing public. It's all about you. It's really about you, about the things that we struggle with as small businesses, whether we're minority-owned, woman-owned, government, LGBTQ, or majority business. You know, we're struggling with trying to understand how do we really gain access to capital and the things that we got to go through, the things we got to give up in order to get money from Marty or Mark. And y'all should come see them. You know, that's a plug, right?
And what they can
We got
do,
a contract.
here's the thing, they got a contract, and if you're going to come see them here,
Right.
let us tell you where here is.
Tell them where we are, Jesse.
Unified Networks, right here in Frisco, Texas.
Frisco, Texas.
I mean, I'm talking lovely lighting. All the aesthetics that make this a world-class presentation.
That's right. That's right.
But substance before style.
Substance.
Let us get back to our guests
There you go.
because it's not about the network. It's
So we
about
got
the
a whole,
content.
we do a whole lot. We like church. Hey, how y'all doing today? All that kind of stuff, right?
Pass the plate, time to pass the plate.
Pass the plate. Pull out the prayer cloth. We've been known to have some of those
We got some
moments.
prayer cloth moments, right?
But we are glad to come back to the meat of our broadcast and really carry on the discussion about the considerations on both the revenue and liability side of this whole thing we call enterprise. When we were leaving, we were speaking to just the mathematical implications of the infusion of capital. How smaller percentage can raise the valuation, larger percentage can decrease it. But with the larger percentage, the CEO may not want to give up that much.
Yeah,
So-
I don't want to give up the majority of my company, you know. And another reason why we talk about this because in this whole diversity and inclusion space with 446 major corporations that say we believe in diversity and inclusion, and I think numbers are right, 28 or 30 of those 446 spend over $1 billion a year with minority inclusion, you know, what they call the $1 billion roundtable. Anybody out there, go look at the BDR, $1 billion roundtable, or go look up NMSDC, National Minority Supply Development Council, or WeBank, Women-Owned Business Enterprise, and then you have also the LGBTQ, and another that I'm missing, I'm sorry. But go look at that and you understand the certifications and the designations. But with those corporations that we believe in diversity and inclusion, they're looking for minority, woman-owned, government, LGBT companies, but more importantly, the small business community. But I don't want to, as a CEO, I don't want to give up all of my business because now I can't go work for, i.e. Toyota or Microsoft, because they're counting spend with me. And I'm 51%, well, no, hold up. I just gave up everything. I'm 100% on the company right now, right?
Yeah.
But I want to give it all up, and I dilute myself down to under that 51%, threshold, that now I'm going to lose that business because that means something to the corporations and, and the economy. So.
Well, if that's going to open the door, so right now, if you're focused on working as a minority business owner,
yes,
within that scope, if it's going to open the door to do business on a much bigger scale, then maybe it makes sense. Would you rather have 10% or 100% of a $10 million company, or 50% of a $100 million company?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the trade-off.
Right.
Great consideration.
And also, do you have the skills it takes to grow the business from 10 to 100?
Yeah.
It's not the same as what it takes to go from 0 to 10.
Yeah.
So that you have to be honest with you.
That's why I had to come to you, Marty, and say, yes, I want to grow.
Right.
I need help, but I need to gain access to capital because I need that capital to deploy the right people to my business to help me scale this business.
Right.
So that's what that's the challenge
Exactly.
we face every day. Every day. Every day.
Every
day.
No, that's a great point. And I guess the only other question I would have is it also important, though, that CEO not lose sight of that vision and that ambition to build a good business?
Yeah.
Which is what that investor is looking at. That may also have, as an avenue of growth, this institutional commitment that's earmarking certain parts of their business that's available for you to take advantage of. How important is it for an investor to consider that? Because there will be some investors that will be more focused on the return. ROI is a very important consideration.
Yeah.
But then how important is it to also emphasize that in addition to this being a good business, it's advantageous to be in this demographic space? How important is that?
I think it's very important for a lot of investors, and I think some of them actually kind of look for opportunities exactly like that. So they're bottom line is getting money. You got to make money that has to make sense economically. But there are certain spaces or certain firms or venture capital firms that want to back, and businesses in a certain industry or minority-owned businesses or economically friendly, environmentally friendly businesses. So it's very important.
And that's a social impact piece to that as well. I guess that's what you're speaking of. You've got some perspective on that also. So I want to make sure we give you a chance.
Yeah, I mean, investors want to invest in good businesses first and foremost, and so you have to have a good business. But if you're a good business and minority-owned or woman-owned,
or any of the other
others,
yeah.
There are larger Fortune whatever businesses out there that want to be a part of the community that they live in.
Right.
And so they want to have their suppliers to look like their community, and they're wanting to have their employees, to reflect the communities that they serve. And so you look for those that put the money where their philosophies are, and they're actually making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, one of the more recent companies that I worked for was a minority-owned logistics firm, and they partnered with the majority-owned logistics firm or company to provide some infrastructure. They gave up a good chunk of ownership of the business, but it made sense because of all the other synergies that they are able to achieve, all the infrastructure costs that they are able to avoid, so that chunk of ownership that they gave up, it made so much more sense in the short and long run.
So to your point, in that instance, the whole was greater than the sum of the
Oh,
parts.
much greater.
Yeah,
much greater.
Which is the point.
Yeah, and when I went there and I first learned, I was like, you guys gave up how much?
Right.
It sounds
like
right.
You gave them how much?
But I remember the president was like, that's the best X% we ever gave up. And we wouldn't be here if we wouldn't have done that decision back 10 years ago.
And even with us, coming from corporate, and i.e. working with Toyota for the last 11, 13 years and seeing a lot of the deals, for a minority-owned company to partner with a majority company, we've seen it, been a part of those type of deals, and you have a large supplier that's providing whatever for Toyota, a $64 or $60 billion company, and you partner with a small company here. But a lot of times that small company became that 51% minority partner to that big, large institution. Because, the corporation want to count spend, but they want to make it right. They don't want the business to go away, but they also, like you said, more importantly, want this fabric to look like the community that they serve as well. Plus, we're buying your vehicles, right? So it's a lot of social impact, a lot of economics behind it, but a lot of times as a small business, we got to understand that we won't get there without partnering with that bigger company.
Right.
Or partnering 2 or 3 of the same companies to make a bigger company.
Right.
That happens, and we have to do those things.
Right. In other words, some of those other larger corporations need you as much as you need them.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, think about it now. I mean,
so
you guys seen corporate, you've been there, you work for a minority firm. Most companies, especially on the corporate side, everything is being what now? Outsourced. It's outsourced to all these different companies that supply, do X, blah, blah, blah. That is the fabric of what society is. When we talk about 45, talking about America great, that's how you really make America great, is to strengthen all these companies doing something for all these major corporations. That's in your community.
Right.
Every day, all day. So those are things that we face every day.
Not that we're politicizing this platform.
No. I'm sorry, President 45. I'm sorry. I apologize. T Mac, go ahead and talk to President 45.
Speaking of which, we always want to make sure that we shout out to folks that are integral to really how this platform is evolved and have made resources available for us to continue to build upon the bigger vision, and that's to change the game. And so we definitely want to recognize the Hall of Famer, Tracy McRae. I know that he's watching us, and we got Antonio Davis and some other folks that have woven into the fabric of
all
what
the
we
fellas
are.
will be with us this weekend.
This
we
coming
got a big
weekend.
event going on this Saturday down in Orlando, Florida, with our partner Gwen Purcern. And
her counsel, Sean.
Sean, and bringing all of our partners out from my Vertitake group. You know, Linda Dabby,
Yes.
Don Jones,
Pat Stensrud.
Pat.
Yeah,
Stensrud.
Pat's
Pat, you know I
incredible.
always jack up your last name.
Pat, I got you. I got you.
You know, as a matter of fact, I got to call Mr. Jones to find out what's going on with him. I need to see you now, Mr. J, in Orlando. But you know, with Gwen and our whole financial team, you know, we have a very important night coming up.
Yep.
You know, we're trying to do some things that people probably didn't think we could do as a team. So when we've deployed all these financial groups and people like yourselves and the athlete entertainers and stuff to do what we're doing, we're trying to build our own $100 million growth fund to actually purchase some of these businesses to help them scale and take them to another level. But we do have that this Saturday.
Yep, we do.
At 7 p.m. And Lord knows I can't even give you the address, but I know it's Orlando, Florida.
And the beautiful thing about that vehicle, with having our first growth fund, is we, to your point, we partnered with some truly, truly remarkable people. I mean, not just steeped in terms of their academic rigor, but these are folks that have gotten their hands dirty, as we say, in the practice of identifying, vetting, and strategically investing in good businesses that had real intrinsic value. I mean, the upside's there, but maybe the execution's not as consistent. But also, they represent leadership that wants to grow in partnership. And so we talk about, the folks that are going to be at this event on Saturday, in addition to the big visionary being Gwen and having, Don and Linda and Pat and Karen and Carrie and some other folks that really bring.
Wendell McCain.
Yeah, Wendell McCain.
And Sean Lyles.
Bring some wonderful expertise.
Yeah, we got great group of people.
This is additive to that. And we're very grateful to have had, the perspective that's shared here, because that is part and parcel to what the theme of our fund is. And so we definitely look forward to talking more about that as we go.
I want to take the red carpet and have Marty and Mark come with us to Orlando.
Love to do it.
Because we got the red carpet there for sure.
We got it there for sure.
Oh, you have it there.
We got the red carpet. I can definitely have y'all
That's where the red carpet is?
Y'all want to travel to Orlando?
Well, I don't know. Now, as much money has been spent, we might have to put together air miles.
There we go. So listen, we're going to come back out of the break here at PN Global News. It's August 23rd, 2018. And one wonderful guest with Marty and Mark in the house with us this morning. So we will be back after the break. Join us at PN Global News.
Best of luck to you.
Hello, I'm Randall Bird. I'm a gynecologist on staff at Texas Health Center for Diagnostics and Surgery. Robotic surgery is certainly a portion of the future of medicine. Through the use of computer-assisted technology, the robot allows patients to have less pain, a shorter hospitalization, and it allows them to return to their work and their lifestyle much faster. My patients particularly appreciate the care they receive at Texas Health Center for Diagnostics and Surgery. The nursing staff always gets high marks, and they're specially trained to deal with patients after minimally invasive surgery. The facility is beautiful, and the food is excellent. If you're considering a gynecological procedure, major or minor, please speak with your physician. And remember, the physicians on staff at Texas Health Center for Diagnostics and Surgery are always available to help.
Oh man, we're back at PN Global News. Boy, y'all try to catch me slipping, but you can't. I'm here. Rodney Woods at PN Global News. My partner Jesse McRae.
I'm here.
We got Marty Ezelle and Mark Howard here at PN Global News today. Man, wonderful, wonderful guests, man. You guys bring a lot of insight, a lot of knowledge. You guys are SMEs in that space, and a lot of times we just don't understand the financial game. It's just clear. It's clear to me, it's clear to a lot of others, and sometimes we don't want to admit when we don't understand something or we don't know something. So I'm telling both of you guys, we don't know everything.
Nope.
So we're trying to find out from you, how do we make this work for these small businesses? Those type of things. And Jesse gives you guys a lot of examples of businesses that are really trying to get capital, but don't want to give up, half the company, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or may not be looking at all of the implications of the debt.
Yeah.
Because
True.
the minute you take that debt, there's a coupon assigned to it.
Now, okay, we talk about the coupon now.
Yeah.
Jesse, we got to break stuff
Talk
down.
about the coupon.
All that listening, all that viewing public, we got to break it down. Jesse go all the terms. Okay, break it down. The coupon, Jesse.
What you're going to pay on the claim against your assets.
There you go.
Simplistically speaking.
Right.
But when we think about debt and we think about the solicitation of capital, I think we would all agree that one of the more important considerations from a risk perspective, from an investor's perspective, is this wonderful formula, wonderful equation called present value. But we're not going to get that technical today.
Yeah,
We're not going to get that technical today. But let's talk about the importance of considering why present value is such a fundamental consideration, because you're not the only opportunity that's being presented to that investor. They're always considering their allocation, at least they should be. If that investment, how does that change the mix in terms of their existing allocation? Will they all of a sudden become more correlated to a particular industry?
Yeah.
But all that aside, what should they consider in terms of negotiating the cost of that money and being able to show it on that wonderful, wonderful pro forma as relates to its flow through to the cost? Because it is an important consideration. How should they go about negotiating that?
Well, like you said, if you're approaching an investor or a bank and they do have other opportunities to invest, and so they're going to look at what's the cost to investing in you. What's that opportunity cost to them?
Yep.
What is what could they get if they went somewhere else? And so you have to then show what's the value that you're going to bring to them, so that opportunity cost makes sense. And in this low interest rate environment, debt isn't as bad a thing as it might have been back in the 80s
Or 10 years ago.
Or 10 years ago, And
When
so,
Armageddon hit.
Oh yeah,
Right,
and so you find a lot of companies who will, borrow someone else's money because they have better use for their own capital to invest into something that's going to help grow their own company.
Wow.
So you have to look at both sides of what is the cost for you to borrow, and then what's the opportunity that you're going to present to that investor so that it makes sense for them to pour that into you. And so it's a balancing of both of those.
Great perspective. I know you had something you wanted to offer.
Yeah, no, and also what does that bring? So, that taking on that amount of debt, to what extent does it change your structure and your operation? How much more scalable are you? And so that could be attractive too. That could change your own capital structure that the bank is looking at. So that's a factor as well. So you want to show that it's all you mentioned. Net present value, you want to get too much into the weeds, but it's basically about like the hurdle rate, right? Everybody
Absolutely.
understands
That's
hurdle rate.
exactly what it is.
So what is your hurdle rate, and how does
Yep.
that change as a
Yep.
result of taking on that versus what it looks like for the other companies that they're considering?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And the reason we raise that, I know Rodney's going to probably expound on this, but one of the other questions that we get is, well, recently, what is your average term that's being negotiated for these companies coming through the portal? What's the average annual cost of that money? And our response is, well, ma'am, it really just depends. I mean, we can get into this.
Depends on you.
It depends on you.
And your business.
Yeah, because
Your performance.
yeah, because
Where you trying to go.
any
Right.
investor's
Right.
they're going
Right.
to price that risk
Yeah.
according to how they assess it. I know you had
No,
some,
I mean, we
you were particularly
get those
passionate about
questions,
it.
quite a bit, and people ask us, but it just depends on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
company, that person, that business, what industry you're in. We've asked the question too, like, who are your competitors? You should know your competitors.
Yes, you should.
So what we turn and flip some questions back to them, and they'd be like, "Wow, I didn't think about that," and that's okay. We're okay with all that because we don't know it all, and that's why we do what we do here at PN Global News, is to talk about those things and the things that's inconvenient for you to know, or the inconvenient truth that you don't know how to ask the question. So we do those things, and that's why we love having you Marty, you Mark, because the inconvenient truth is we just don't know, and the inconvenient truth is we don't know the questions to ask. Sometimes even if we sit with you.
Right.
Even if we sit with you, Mark, we really don't know what to ask, And I'm not saying all of y'all. I'm just saying me. I don't know what to ask.
Because there are some savvy among you, and we can appreciate
I'm not
that.
saying all of you guys. I want to make sure we understand. I'm not saying all of you
right.
guys don't know, but a lot of us don't know. We grew a business, and even as an African American business, we will do everything in our power to keep this business going. We'll sell everything. We'll do everything, and we'll try to keep it going. But that's not the right way to do it.
Right.
So it comes up a lot.
Yeah. I think on that note, just going into those discussions and those negotiations, just understanding that it is negotiation and there's a wiggle room. But then the more you understand your own business, your own capital structure, your own margins, and competition around you, the better you're able to negotiate that rate. So it's.
Well, the one thing, Marty, we have done, with all of our partners, with T-Mac and, and Gwen and all the others, AD, all of our people who believe in us and stuff. We built a portal called www.playbookinvestors with an S.
With an S.
Network.com. You can always go out and view us at www.playbookinvestorsnetwork.com. But we built this ecosystem just to educate suppliers who really wanted to gain access to capital to get to the next level, because there's a whole lot of educational that we just don't know, and buzzwords, financial terms, we don't know that, and you need somebody like you or like you, Mark, to help these companies understand this is what you're looking at. This is your financial impact, and if you take this money, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
And we're trying to make sure that we don't have hostile takeovers, because if you don't pay these coupons or meet these milestones, they come to get what?
Oh, they're coming to your house.
Coming to your house, coming to your business.
Knocking on the door.
They're knocking on the door, right?
Yeah.
I don't think y'all want to see Mark and Marty coming.
Reminds me of that movie, again, not intended to be a plug for a movie, but The Repo Man.
Oh, yeah. Of the body parts.
Yes.
Right.
They were coming because they couldn't meet an obligation. But all humor aside, one of the
That's
things.
kind of tough, Jesse. Taking a picture and taking somebody's heart.
That is their heart.
The Repo Man.
Right.
Hey, I mean, that's the life. That's their life. Because you and I have had those conversations.
Nah,
with the mom and pop.
We cut up a lot.
Man, have
but
built
I
those
ain't want
businesses.
to take nobody's heart. We're not trying to do that. Then you won't be able to operate anymore.
Well, I tell you what, let me have a spleen.
Okay, all right, spleen.
Can I have a spleen?
Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe Attila tendon?
A teletendon?
Yeah.
And he can't jump no more. Hey, Mac, he trying to get your teletendon done. We know you retired, but you still got a little bit left.
But when we consider, strongly consider, again, going back to the pro forma.
Yeah.
Because that's just a document that I believe, for those of you that have never considered how to quantitatively communicate your projections, pro forma is a great tool. But we go back to that, and we began to tell the story tab to tab, making sure that column A, cell 36, matches up with tab D, C 31, that the critical view of that data wants to be able to follow the story, the revenue and its sources. To your point, how we recognize cost synergies over a specific period of time. The flow through, or said differently, how judicious we're going to be with managing our costs in terms of bringing it to market, but also the cost to produce the product, SG&A. But then following that coupon payment, following some schedule from the cap table, or the amortization schedule that shows how you're going to deploy a certain amount of money according to certain benchmarks, that you're going to defease that debt, all part and parcel to communicating that you are aware of the risk, Mr. and Miss Investor, but let's focus on the growth. What are some of the ways that you would encourage a solicitor of capital to do those things, to be able to tell the story? Because that's exactly what it is. It's a story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're exactly right. It is a story that they're having to tell with the use of that capital, how it's going to be spent, what it's going to purchase, what those purchases are going to do for your business, and you're telling that story. I mean, someone who's looking to offer you capital, they want to understand the story.
Right.
They want to understand, where is this going to take me down the road? And I know a lot of the terms that we're talking about, people might not have heard of, but that's why you have wonderful folks like yourself and other mentors out there who can help you understand the names of the game, because there are people who've been there, done that. There are people who do have lots of success and experience at the pro formas and asking for capital. And I would just encourage, kind of back to a couple of moments ago, is to reach out and find those mentors, to reach out and tune into the PIN network, right? Right, because it really is just a story.
Yeah.
And there's an art to telling that story, so that you highlight the positives and you acknowledge what might be some weaknesses, but you show how you're going to address those.
And maybe frame them as opportunities.
Right, absolutely.
How powerful is a word?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's totally part of our makeup. I mean, we go out and we believe in the whole job creation thing, in all 50 states. So we go out and deploy the talent, the SMEs, the relationship managers, because some of the companies need their hands held and they need to have certain things explained to them. Because, this show is good. If you want to listen, you want to view us, or you want to see Mark and Marty, but everybody's not able to do that all the time. And you really need somebody on a day-to-day to help you walk through this whole process, And sometimes they don't know how to find you, and you don't know how to find them. So we're just trying to marry up, these different states and different cities where you have all these small businesses that are good businesses. They just need help. That's just what it's all about, just need help. So, yeah.
Sure.
I think we gave them a clue on how to find these two on this show
Right.
today. Today.
We did.
We did. I love singing. It's just a part.
Go
of it.
ahead.
You
Sing your song, Jay.
I'm not going to sing it, but
I want to see you sing your
but
song.
I'm definitely
today.
going to convey it. They can find us at www.playbookinvestorswithanSnetwork.com, Penn Global News. We even got a couple of channels.
Yeah,
we high side.
Look at, we feel good
We're in
about
Tall
it, too.
Cotton. We're in Tall
Marty,
Cotton.
we feel good about it, too.
We're in Tall Cotton. Where can they find us? What other mediums can they find us?
Roku. We're on Roku channel.
Facebook. We can even, like 45, we can even tweet a little bit.
Tweet a little bit. We can also go to LinkedIn and see us.
Yes, you
we
can.
got a heck of a team. Shaquille, LaRonda, and all of our team, K-Mill and Robert. They put us out there on social media. And our partner, who's kind of upset with us right now, Joe Scott. He's waiting on us. We coming.
Joe, we are coming to a county near you. Trust me, we sure
We're
are.
coming. But we got other partners. We got partners even in international markets, and Ying McRae, who's over in China now.
Yes, she is. Ying Ying.
Doing things that we're trying to do because we have a whole cross borders program that companies are coming in from the international markets, to the United States, and they're partnering with some of these minority and woman-owned government businesses, as well as if a major corporation, i.e., wants you or you to go across to India or Asia or anywhere, international, then we have ability to try to partner with companies over there too. So it's a win for everybody, right? So that's what we're doing here at PN Global News. Man, well, I don't even want this to end. Why y'all telling me to end?
I mean, it's over. It's over.
We're just getting started.
I didn't get my popcorn.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of that.
I'm like, I don't even want this to end because, man, this is good with Marty and Mark. Man, we're so happy to have you guys here with us today, man. It's a blessing.
It
It's
is
always
that.
a blessing.
It is that.
For all of us to wake up every day and let's see each other, right?
Right.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
Be
That's
able to
right.
talk.
It's been
But
great to be here.
Again, we're here at PN Global News with Marty Ezelle, Mark Howard, my partner Jesse McRae.
Sure.
And man, this is, like I said, it's just an honor and a privilege to be able to, just give you guys knowledge.
As we always say, mind the assets, be mindful of the debt, grow the revenue, and best of luck to you.
So we'll be back here at PN Global News next Thursday from 10 to 11, every Thursday. Man, what if I'm sick? I got to take off a day. No, I'm just kidding.
You can't do that, Rodney.
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to take off.
You are the glue of the show.
I don't know about that one. Anyway, I think Marty and Mark are the good show. So we'll be back next week from 10 to 11 Central Time with my partner, Jesse McRae. But like I said, again, thank you so much, Marty.
It's been our pleasure. It's
Sage
been our
advice.
pleasure.
Sage
Yeah.
advice. Continued success to you.
Thank you, Mark.
Likewise.
Appreciate
We'll see
it.
you guys back here next week at PN Global News. Have a great weekend. See y'all in Orlando also. Come on. All right.
Continued success.